Hello everyone, this is Grace. It is March the 22nd, 2022, and we are continuing our study on the equinox. We left off at wheat, so let's read through these, and then we'll take a look at some more of the charts. Wheat is an annual grass that grows well in cold temperature regions. It thrives in USDA Zone 7A through 10B, which that is the zone Israel is 10B. What climate is best for growing wheat? Wheat grows best when the temperatures are warm, around 21 degrees to 24 degrees Celsius, 70 to 75 degrees, but are not too hot. Wheat also needs a lot of sunshine, especially when the grains are beginning to fill out. I'm just going to leave that. It grows best when temperatures are warm, but it's going to say somewhere else that it grows best when in cool climates. Where does wheat grow in Israel? The 10-year average wheat production was 107 TMT. About 70% of Israel wheat is planted in the southern part of the country, and the rest in the central and northern regions. 70% planted in south, and the rest in the central and northern regions. What conditions do you need to grow wheat? Wheat grows best in temperatures between 70 degrees and 75 degrees Fahrenheit. The minimum temperature that wheat can withstand during its growth cycle is about 40 degrees Fahrenheit, which is wonderful because the minimum temperature in Israel is about 41 degrees. Wheat does not grow well if temperatures exceed 95 degrees. Temperatures below 40 degrees Fahrenheit during seed germination will result in lower germination rates. What is the growing season in Israel? On average, a frost-free growing season starts February the 1st and ends December the 1st. Well, that's not what we saw. One moment. Okay, let's look at the temperatures. Hold on. Frost-free growing season starts February the 1st and ends December the 1st. I have the temperatures, but not the snow. Just a moment, I went to the wrong area. Here we go. So the snowfall begins in December, but it's such a little, it probably doesn't matter. But in February, you can see this is near the end of February, but it still goes up to almost a little bit less than half an inch. Right near the end of February, the beginning of March. So, no, that doesn't match up. On average, a frost-free growing season starts February the 1st and ends December the 1st. Maybe it depends on where you are. Totaling 304 days. You will find both spring and fall planting guides on this page. Planting wheat. Most wheat is a cool season crop. That's what I was telling you. It says exactly the opposite elsewhere. Winter wheat should be planted 6 to 8 weeks before the first fall frost. Spring wheat can be planted once the ground is ready to work in early spring. This can tolerate heat better, but still should be able to develop before it reaches scorching temperatures. This can tolerate heat better, but still should be able to develop before it reaches. This is very odd. Why would this is epic gardening. Why would it say scorching temperatures? Give us some data here. Spring wheat, 120 days. I didn't put it. Winter wheat, I didn't put it here, but I did read that it was 120 days. However, we're going to see from the data here that it can take like 7 months. I read somewhere else 9 months. I even read somewhere that it takes a year. As inexpensive as wheat is, they have wheat being harvested after a year. A year. I just don't believe it. What time of year is wheat harvested? Winter wheat is planted in the fall and harvested in the summer. Here we are. This actually matches up with the chart that we looked at last time. Let's look at that. So they planted in the 7th month, September through October. Oh, that's the plowing. Then it gets planted October to November. And they continue the planting in November and December. And they wait. They get their rains, even though they get their main rains in January and December. That matches up. More rains. February and March, there was just a little bit of rain in March, but they haven't marked as the spring rains. So spring rains come, and that's when you begin to harvest. And your wheat doesn't get harvested until May and June. Let's count. So the plowing begins, they plant in. So November, December, January, February, March, April. Takes 6 months to harvest the barley crop. That takes 90 days. May, June, and July. 9 months. I wonder if this is where I got the 9 months from. 9 months for a wheat harvest. 9 months. Anyway. Does wheat need a lot of water? Because wheat is generally a cool season crop. It does not require much water. Well, if it's planted in the desert, it's going to need more. Wheat needs between 12 and 15 inches of rain over a growing season to produce a good crop. Now, down here, it's going to tell us that they irrigate. How much water a particular wheat crop will need will depend on how much water is stored in the ground and how much natural rainfall an area gets. Does wheat grow in Israel? Wheat is in Israel a dry farming crop grown in the rainy winter. Auxiliary irrigation of 150 to 200 mm's is applied to some of the fields, particularly in the drier south and in drought years. Now, I didn't look this up, so I don't know how much water that is, but it's going to have to equal more than the 9 to 12 inches that's needed here, because the winters are not cool. They're not. The main crop in Israel are wheat, sunflower. Well, what grows well in Israel? The main crops in Israel are wheat, sunflower, groundnuts, and chickpeas. And then, of course, we know that the fruits are going to do well in that climate. We know that. Where is wheat grown? Where is wheat grown in Israel? About 70% of Israel is planted in the southern part, which is also the drier south of the country, and the rest in the central and northern regions. Average rainfall in the southern wheat producing regions generally reaches 450 millimeters per year. I didn't look that up, sorry. While the northern regions receive 500 to 550 mm's per year. We don't need that. Okay, so let's look at the flax so we can go on. What weather does flax grow in? Its preferences are deep, moist loam, rich in vegetable matter, not too loose, not too hard like clay, and neither sandy nor rocky. If manure is added to the soil, it must be well aged. Enjoying a warm, moist climate, flax will grow in all temperate and tropical regions. Now, we know it's not a tropical region. There's not enough rain, but it can be considered temperate. The temperatures don't vary enough for it to be, like here in America, each season, especially in the Midwest, each season is very distinctive. You can tell when it's winter, you can tell when it's summer, same as spring and fall. What temperature does flax grow in? Optimal germination temperatures are between 65 and 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Don't cover them up with more than 1/16 inch soil, since they need sunlight to wake them up. Flax seeds are best sown in fall, either surface sown or raked into light medium quality clump-free soil. It does best 6 to 6.5 pH. Does flax grow in winter? Flax is an annual herbaceous plant that can be grown as a winter annual in mild climates. Flax plants grow, well, it is a mild climate because it's hot there. So flax plants grow from 12 to 14 inches high. What zone does flax grow in? So I was thinking, okay, that does match. It's a milder Well, I don't know if it's a mild climate, but it certainly isn't cold. The heat is, I mean, it's kind of hot. It is their desert, but what zone does flax grow in? 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Israel is 10B. So there should not be flax there. What states produce the most flax? I think there was a couple of zones. Remember we looked at the green and the yellow areas? There was a few areas that had an 8 and a 9 there. Not too bad. What states produce the most flax? North Dakota is the leading producer of flax for oil and food in the U.S. While fiber flax used to be an important crop in the U.S., almost none is grown commercially now. Fiber flax production dropped dramatically during the 19th century as cotton replaced flax in the country's dominant plant fiber. You guys know why Israel has to produce flax, right? Well, I'm going to tell you. Flax is what linen is made out of. That's what linen is. So they had to have flax in order to have the linen garments. They couldn't just import flax. It had to be there. It had to be available. Which country is the third largest producer of flax? I don't know why. This is one of the questions that just popped up, and I have no idea why I said the third largest instead of the first largest. I just wrote it down, so I just copied it. China, 239. Italy, 43. Wow, what a difference. 43.1. Tunisia, 20.6. And Lithuania, 17.7. Look at the change. I never even noticed it be 239 millions. Oh, they export it. Okay, so we buy the most from them. It's not who produces it. Wait, rank, country, the value. Yeah, I noticed that I would ask a question and then sometimes I get a different response. Same thing with the barley. When I asked about planting the barley and it started talking about cover crops. But anyway, that's what the data that I pulled off the internet for the in regards to the harvest. So let's take a look at the charts that I have, and then we'll go on and compare it to the Bible. This is Mississippi, and there's 4 states that are covered in Mississippi. There's nothing I can do about this. We'll just try and overlook it. It gave us the cities: Jackson, Biloxi, and Tupelo. So the high is around 90, a little bit more than 90 degrees, between 90 and 95. And then the lows look like it's right around 35 degrees. And they generally spread these out, but I didn't think to get the data as far as their location. It was given, but I didn't think to mark it on for Mississippi. Here we are. Here's the average rainfall. It's going to be more than 4 inches, even in the winter time. In the summertime, it drops. The lowest is going to be around. They start at 3 inches, and then the lowest it gets 2.7. Then it goes up from there, and that's at right in the middle of summer. So let's go on. This is Jackson. We can skip that. 10B. The harvest time for wheat, by the way, is... Oh, I told you that. Okay. Middle East. Most of this is desert. It's desert. Zone 15, Zone 17, Zone 18, 19, and 20. It's hot there. So leading wheat producers in the United States, 20 2020 and 2021. So Kansas, North Dakota, Oklahoma, Montana, Washington, all cool states. Idaho, Texas, Colorado, Minnesota, Illinois. So I didn't know that Texas was that cool, so I had to look that up. Oh, here. Kansas starts at zone 5, 5B to 7A. Oklahoma ends at 7B. All of these are cool states. 4B for Montana. That's cold. All of these are the wheat producers in the United States. Zone Washington starts at 6B. Ends at 6B. That's the warmest it gets, or the ground, because it's for planting. Idaho's a little bit warmer. It's at 8A. And here's Texas. I knew Texas got hot. That's why I was like, wait a second. So it stops at 10A. But when you look at Texas, it's so big, it covers a vast array of zones. So you could literally plant up here and you don't have to go down there at all. I did get the stats for Texas, but because I didn't print out the location, I don't know why I didn't think to do that. It's kind of pointless. This is the average rainfall. I got it for Houston, Dallas, Austin, and El Paso. You can see El Paso doesn't get hardly any rain, but then Houston gets the most, and it's generally between 3.5 and it goes as much as 4.5 inches, 3.5 to during the summer here it goes down to as low as 2.7 inches. And of course the temperatures are going to vary as well, because they select areas that are like either far apart or vary or something like that. Yeah. So you have the average high and low temperatures. El Paso, 34 degrees, low, high is 70. Oh, high, it's going to be 97 degrees. What a difference. What a difference, man, from 34 degrees to 97 degrees. And then you have for, I think purple was Houston. Yeah, Houston, we're looking at 47 degrees, going to be your average low. And then around 95 degrees for your average high. Let's go on. Now, I did remember to look up the map locations for Jordan. And you have Amman at the top, the very top, near the very top of Israel. And then whatever this is going to be at the bottom. So let's look at the chart for this. So Amman at the top of near Jerusalem, you're looking at temperatures from 38 and then a high of 80, which is similar to a high of 90, not too far off. And then in the south, you have a low of around 50 degrees and then a high of 100 and right around 103 degrees. So let's look at the rainfall. So the rainfall, there's practically no rain near the southern part of Jordan. And then Amman looks similar to Jerusalem again. Around 1.7 inches during the colder areas, and then it just completely drops to 0 during the summer. Very similar. What is this here? Oh, this is Iraq, but I'm not going to do that because Jordan was closer. So Iraq and Iran, we don't need those. And this is Iran as well. Okay, so that's it for the illustrations. Let's go ahead and go back to the scriptures. Hold on. Okay. Okay, so this is where we left off. So let's go ahead and continue on. Thou shalt therefore keep this ordinance in his season. Again, seasons, it's the same word for feast days, from year to year. The ordinance that's being spoken of, they're talking about the feast of the Passover and the feast of unleavened bread. These are the feasts of the Lord, even holy convocations, which ye shall proclaim in their seasons. He appointed the moon for seasons. The sun knoweth its going down. His going down. We use the moon to gauge the months, which is how we know which feast day is coming up. But all of the celestial, the sun, the moon, and the planets are used to calculate what time of year it is in order to use that month, in order to use the right month. Proverbs 6:8. He provideth her meat in the summer, and gathereth her food in the harvest. I put this in here because there seemed to be a pattern of summer and then harvest. It can be taken as separate, but it also probably can be taken as the same. I guess it's just going to depend on how you want to read it. It's not a big deal, but I saw the pattern, so I put it in here. To me, it seems to be separate sometimes, but then other times it does seem to be speaking of the same thing. He that gathereth in summer is a wise son, but he that sleepeth in harvest is a son that causes shame. As snow in summer and as rain in harvest, so honor is not seemly for a fool. So basically, it's saying that you don't harvest during the rainy season, which is exactly the opposite of what we have here. The spring rains come, and then they harvest the flax, and they harvest the barley. Now, at least they do harvest the wheat during the dry season, but they have to wait 9 months, even as long as a year, if you in some areas they say as long as a year to harvest it. It just and it doesn't happen. You're supposed to get a rain during the harvest season as often as you get snow in the summer, and as often as a fool will get honor. And they have it on their yearly schedule. The harvest is past, the summer is ended, and we are not saved. We're going to stop here. This is a whole little, I want to do several scriptures in Daniel, and it may take a moment to explain. So we're going to stop here, and we'll pick up in the next video.